Welcome to Voices from the Vineyard, where we share stories of faith, hope, and community from Valley Vineyard Church. Thanks for joining the conversation.
Well, welcome to our fourth podcast of Voices from the Vineyard. I'm excited today. We have Eddy Ekmekji, who's been a pastor for many years and is a regional overseer for InterVarsity campus ministry. And as I was preparing for today, I was thinking that our first three podcasts we've had all women go through this with me, and so Eddy's the first guy. So I was thinking it might be a shorter podcast. Well, I don't know about that. We'll see. But I'm excited to have you here today to talk about just your journey and campus ministry, and also next gen stuff and your heart for evangelism. So welcome, Eddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So as I like to do with others is, but my first question is just tell us a little bit about your story. It's always good to know kind of people's formational story and then just how Jesus met you and all that.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. I grew up in a Christian home, grew up actually in the Middle East, and moved to America when I was 10 years old. And my mom is in the Orthodox tradition, my dad's in the Protestant tradition. And so around middle school, I started sort of wondering, what do I believe? So do I sort of see how my dad pursues his faith, how my mom pursues her. And so began a journey. My image of God for most of my youth is sort of the picture of an angry God, of the God who judges. So he was personal, he was available, but he was a judge. He was someone who, made sure he watches every step I take and makes sure that I don't misstep. And really was early in my high school years where the local church where I was going as a youth group started meeting with the youth pastor who invested in me and really started understanding the grace and the love of God, which were things just that were foreign to me at the time, but obviously things that I needed and wanted to be seen and known by a loving God. And that really began my journey in discipleship and having encountered that aspect of God and wanting more and more of that as I grew up.
Yeah, it's so hard to kind of grow from that image of God. I grew up in a Spanish-speaking evangelical tradition where there's guilt and shame and God's watching what you're doing, and it's taken years to kind of get free. From that.
I mean, yes, a lot of it. There's sort of the initial understanding that God is love, God is grace, and then the deeper discipleship is unlearning all the things, all the patterns of how, not just how I relate to God, but how I see myself. I think probably particularly how I hold forgiveness and resentment. And so those take sort of longer things to unlearn old patterns and adopt new ones and let sort of when you read in Scripture about Christ renewing our minds and our hearts, that I understand why that's so important. Not just a one-time thing, but a continual, being renewed by Christ.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this happened in middle school. You're growing, and so how did you get connected with InterVarsity ministry, and what made you kind of say yes to eventually campus ministry?
Yeah.
As well?
When I went away to college, literally, I'm moving into the dorms. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was on the third floor, I remember, and so the car's packed, and we're moving the boxes. And in that transition from the car to my dorm room, literally a few minutes into my college career, my college life, knock on the door, and a friend from high school just sort of saw me that I was moving into the dorms, and she asked, like, do you live here? I said, yeah. She goes, well, I'm leading a Bible study here in this dorm, and we'd love for you to join us. And what I didn't know is she meant she's leading a Bible study in my room. She didn't have a place to lead the Bible study, so she eventually asked if we could host it in our dorm room. And so I got involved very, very quickly.
Wow.
With God, I guess chased me down just the moment I stepped into on campus, and it was a great journey. Just faith became my own throughout college. I became, as I was, we didn't use the term adulting back then, but as I was adulting, as I was growing, start recognizing just how much I just loved being. Like that God is with me in all the things that I do, and I just love seeing students' lives transformed, my friends' lives transformed, and the more I saw that, the more I was like, I want to be part of this for beyond my college years.
Quickly. So, what were you in college for? What was your? I'm sure you didn't go and say my career is going to be InterVarsity. That's what I'm going to college.
Right. A few different routes. I was thinking of either journalism, something in the political international field.
Okay.
I was an international relations and history major, and I was looking. Thought maybe I could work for the State Department, or be some sort of journalist, international journalist. I was involved with the newspapers in high school and college. I wrote for the paper, so that was something that I was interested in, excited me. So that was the route that I was looking into. Okay. Yeah.
So what happened? How did you get into InterVarsity?
Then I think I saw more. I actually went on a cross-cultural missions project my third year to China. And it really just opened my eyes. Like it was all the international stuff that I wanted, and yet here I am, like finding myself like I just love seeing students experience God. That's what I want to, like, whether they're atheists, like they're like the Chinese counterparts that we had, or believers like the Americans who came, and I just loved that I could be part of somebody's spiritual journey and helping them see God, encounter God, and be moved by God the way that God moved in my life. So graduated, signed up for an internship. Next thing I know, 27 years later, I'm still doing the internship, I guess.
Keep forever young. It keeps you young, right? Working
that
with college.
Too, that does. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So you've been there 27 years. You've been doing this for 27 years. I'm sure there's been different shifts and changes throughout the years, right? But I guess now, as we're in this season of life, or in this time, what are some of the biggest challenges you think you feel that students or young adults face today?
Yeah. You hear a lot about anxiety. So a lot of students, that is a common experience for students, is managing their anxiety, feeling anxious. It is an anxious generation. There's a book that was written about that came out a few years ago. And I see that. I see the ways that they're trying to navigate and make sense of the world around them, of how they manage friendships and relationships. What happened during their COVID spaces, I think, just made them anxious about their own physical health, probably at a younger age than most of us would think about our physical health. And so anxiety and managing anxiety is, I think, one of the major challenges that students hold today. And there's probably, a lot of, I would sort of say that's a meta category, and there's probably a lot of categories underneath that, sort of who am I going to become? What kind of jobs and roles, what decisions should I make along the way? Am I going to miss out if I go left instead of right? So I think all those things are sort of wrapped in, and you just have anxious students in trying to figure out their future.
And from your perspective, do you think the anxiety is just more prevalent because people are talking more about being more vulnerable, or there's more information about anxiety? Or is it the state of where things are at too in our time, or both?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think when we were 19, 20, we probably had a level of anxiety as well. I don't know if we called it that, or if you recognize that. So I think there is a level where that's just what it means to be human at times, or what it means to be a young human, is you're managing and holding various anxieties, whether you can name them or not. And you're right. I think that the gift given to us in the last couple decades is that people have been more vulnerable talking about it and being able to have categories that maybe we didn't have when we were going through that season of our lives. But having said that, it does feel like the world is in a different place. The access to information and access to even just like what social media does. Back when I was 19, 20, who do I compare myself to? There's probably a dozen people that I would see on any regular basis to be able to have anxious, like if I'm comparing myself to other people. But now it's like, you've got 2,000 friends on social media. All of a sudden you've got, thousands of people's lives that you're looking at and wondering, am I doing it right? So that would be, I think, an example of where it seems like young people today are having to manage more things than they ever have. I heard somebody say recently that it's like the youth today are growing up faster than they've ever had, but also they're not. Like and we see that in some young people. It's like, oh, you don't know how to mail a letter? Didn't you learn that in kindergarten? Get a stamp, all that kind of stuff. So it's sort of like, so you wonder, like, are they going to make it? But on the other hand, I think they're managing things that we didn't have to manage when we were 19, 20. So I do think there's something unique about anxiety with this generation.
Yeah, that's true. I think you're right with technology or social media, the amount of information. I know at times I can sometimes on my downtime scroll through it, right? Yeah. And you have access to so much bad news, so much injustice throughout the world, and not just in our nation, but the whole world. And I don't know if we were meant to carry all of that, and I know at times, like, I don't want to get to a place where I'm just going to ignore it all.
Right.
But at the same time, you can be consumed by it.
Oh, yeah.
And so figuring out that we can, how do we get enough what's appropriate, but then also bring to Jesus whatever it's not for us to carry as well, and pray and lament and, but it is a process, and there's a lot of anxiety in that as well.
Yeah.
And so, and I remember hearing a therapist and a brain science person on the podcast they were doing together talk about this next generation doesn't know how to go through repair. So in relationships, we have a lot of ruptures. In marriage, we have ruptures. And with our kids, we have ruptures. We can't avoid ruptures.
Right.
We're going to make mistakes. We're imperfect. But then maturity comes by repairing those ruptures, right? Yeah. Saying, forgive me, or I had a bad day, I'm not going to do this again, or whatever. And this generation is growing up with, I don't feel safe with this person, so I'm just going to distance myself, or I'm going to cancel them out.
Yeah.
And so there isn't that maturity of like figuring out how to, and it, all that also affects our brain and our relations, our spirituality, our emotional life, everything. Yeah. And so that's one of the things I see as it's just a hard thing. Every generation has to overcome certain things.
That's right. Yeah. And I hold it with a lot of grace for young people and compassion versus like, what's wrong with them. I do think that you're right. There's so much coming at them unfiltered. It's, information has become flat. What I mean by that is it's all coming from all these different directions, and their minds are still young and haven't learned how to discern well. What am I hearing, and is this legit or not? Is this fit the worldview that I want to have or not? And so that's one of the things that I think we have to do well as a church and as mentors is helping young people discern well and discern between good and evil. I had a friend who's a pastor tell me that one thing he prays for this generation is that, lead us not in temptation and deliver us from evil, that he would pray that for young people. And I think that's such a great prayer because at the end of the day, I can't save my kids, or I personally will not be able to save people. That's Jesus's job, right? That's what Jesus does. And I can't control everything. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, right? Like kids can always, find the hacks around things, and same with young people, right? Like or youth. The idea of like sheltering just is not the way of discipleship. The way of discipleship really is to equip them, give them the tools, and help them discern well. Help them discern so that when they're seeing something that is evil, to call it evil. When they see something that is good, to call it good. And if we do that well as a church, if we are able to highlight those things and teach generation how to discern well, then I'm not afraid about going out into the world, because they're going to be people who know how to discern between the spirits, discern between good and evil, discern between beauty and destruction.
I really like what you said about holding the next generation with grace. A lot of times that it seems like other generations haven't experienced that. Like I know growing up, there's difficulty with the prior generation looking down. And now that we used to be the young ones, now we're getting older, and it's holding that grace of like, we were young, we were exploring. There's a lot of initiative and like wanting to change things in life, and instead of like trying to quench things, how can we encourage? How can we love? How can we pray? And it's okay if they make mistakes. That's how we learn.
That's right.
Is correcting those mistakes.
That's
right. And so I really like that. So there's a lot of evil. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of, since COVID, for these kids, COVID was a big marker of like, this world's messed up. And then all the political unrest, racial stuff, that's the climate that they're in, right? But in the midst of that, and we could probably go on and on all our time talking about that, but what do you see God doing in this generation as well? It seems like things are happening. God's on the move. I think he's an expert of moving when things seem like, there's disaster and injustice and lack of hope. It's like he likes to move in those times.
Well, I think it's like revealing to young people that, like you said, like there is very little hope in the world around us, and there's got to be more. And you read of these revivals that are happening around the country on college campuses. And I think it's genuine and legit, and it seems like they're hungry for more. They're hungry for more of what they want to see God do in their lives and in this world, and their trust is no longer in these systems, but really in something greater. And they're looking to God, and they're looking to Scripture to guide them. And I think there's that is unique. I think whereas our generation was allergic to the things of the church, this next generation is actually really open to the Spirit of God moving, and you're seeing that. You're seeing that in around the country, particularly on college campuses. This sort of sense of revival, the desire for revival. That's really exciting to see. So I don't sort of look at this generation as like lost or forgotten or even, where's our hope? I look at that and go, oh, this is really exciting. And these are, people who are encountering God in a fresh way. And one day they'll be my pastor. And I feel good about that,
Yeah, one of the things I've been thinking about as a church and wanting to be growing and becoming more of an intergenerational church is it seems that God is doing something in this season, in this generation. And so what can we do to join him in what he's doing? Because he's going to do this with or without us.
That's right.
And so how can we participate? How can we play in this? And how can we, as a community, pray for the Lord to move? And it's going to be different than what we experienced, what prior generations have experienced.
That's
right. And I also feel that this generation, because of so much information, they're also growing with a lot of becoming experts in so many different areas. And there's a strive for excellence, I believe. Like, you want you see people throw parties, and they're amazing parties now. You know, like
Yeah.
everything is thought out, everything
top notch.
top
Yeah,
notch,
yeah.
all the decoration, the
Yeah.
food, and so there is just a heart for excellence and beauty and making things better. So I think God can use that for His kingdom.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's what we have to do, is look at what is the gift that people bring and not be afraid of who they are, of how they're thinking, of who they want to reach, how they want the structures to serve them to help reach even more of their friends for Christ. And so it would be good for us to listen and do it the ways that God is changing things and moving us, and for us to be, okay, like, this was really good for us, this worked for us, but maybe the time has come for us to transition and do something a little bit different. And so yeah, I love that you're thinking that way, and God is going to move, and I want to be on that team, right?
Yeah. So you're a big proponent of evangelism. And obviously, you wouldn't be a part of InterVarsity if that wasn't your heart. Seeing transformation, seeing people know Jesus, and then be discipled. And I know last year you helped us with an evangelism conference, and you want people to learn to know their story, know God's story, know their story, and learn how to share both, figure out how to connect with others. And so evangelism, it seems that it's intimidating for many people. I know I grew up in a church where there were people that were amazing at evangelism, and they're the ones that were propped up. Like they would go up and tell their testimony of how easy it was, or how many people they had led to Jesus.
And then you're comparing yourself
to like, I don't even want to say hi to the person in line at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And so, what do you feel that is intimidating for Christians nowadays when it comes to that, and when it comes to evangelism? I mean, even the word gets people nervous nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a, this is my personal opinion, people might disagree with me, there's a little bit of a misunderstanding of what evangelism should be and what it means. And when I hear that word, it's easy to think of like the Billy Grahams. The evangelist is the one who stands in front of large crowds and proclaims the gospel, and people come to faith, and that's evangelism. Or you might think of, as you're driving downtown, the guy standing on the corner with a bullhorn and telling you need to repent, and we think like, oh, that's evangelism, or whatever other categories we have around evangelism. To me, evangelism is declaring good news, and really it begins with, well, what does that even mean? What is good news? And what I hold is it's got to be good news for me as well. Like, for me to declare good news, it can't just be, well, Jimmy, you're a sinner in need of a savior. Turn to Jesus. That's the good news for you. Like, no, it has to actually, I have to believe and have this conviction that God is good for me. And God saved me, or God's good news is actually good news for Eddy. And if I hold on to that, then, and let that actually, let that be the thing that speaks to my friends and my peers and my neighbors, and then that really becomes the base of evangelism. Now, you develop skills on how to do that well along the way, but really I think at the heart of it is, that's why what we did at the Vineyard here a few months ago around telling your story, and why I like to sort of focus on your story, because everybody has a story, and I challenge people to go, well, within your story, what is good news? What was so good to you that changed your life, that God transformed it? And just say that, like, that is good news. And if you're afraid to say that, then I would press you to keep asking, Lord, like, is it really good news? Like, have you really held on that this is good news to you? When I find myself in a TV show that I love, right? I'm telling people because it's like so good. It's been good for my soul to watch whatever it is, or eat at a restaurant. And I would think that if we hold on to that as believers, that, oh, this is really good for me. Let me share that with you. And you can decide for yourself if that's good for you, but let me tell you why it's been so good to me. I mean, that would be just a great first step. So I think a lot of Christians might be intimidated because they have this image of what it should be.
So you're selling something.
You're selling something. And then second, I wonder if they've forgotten how good the good news is. That might be so that might be the word of conviction for others. It's like, maybe you haven't had an encounter with Jesus in a while, and you had forgotten that he is good. And I would just challenge people to, the first step of evangelism is go deep with Jesus. Pray for an encounter with God in a new, fresh way. Let God restore you, refresh you. Let that be good news to you. That's probably the best evangelism training I could do, is help people connect with the Spirit.
That's great. It reminds me of a joke or a story a while back that had a couple, and the wife asked her husband, "How come you're not very expressive? How come you don't tell me you love me?" And his response was like, "Well, we got married 30 years ago, and on that altar, I told you I love you. And if I ever change my mind, I'll let you know."
Right.
And that was enough for him. And as you were talking, it reminded me of that, because sometimes that's how it is with our relationship with Jesus. I said yes 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I had this encounter. There was something that drew me to him. Yeah. But then am I still having these moments where he's drawing me to him?
That's right.
Is it still good news? It's not just good news from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But is this still a good relationship? Am I still connected to a good God that gets me excited, that gives me life and hope? And then that's going to be contagious. We're gonna share out of that.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So saying that, like, what can you share a story of someone coming to faith that either came through a campus ministry or through your life? Just something that's been exciting for you.
One story to share from this past fall. I spoke at a conference. We do this fall conference every fall, and I was a speaker. And I'm standing in line for lunch or dinner. It was a weekend conference on Saturday, and this young woman was standing in front of me, 18, 19 years old, and she introduces herself to me and says, "Can I share my story with you?" I said, "Absolutely." And she had grown up essentially as an orphan. Her parents died at a young age. She was 5 or 6 years old, got placed with grandma. Grandma died when she was 12. So she sort of bounced around different homes, foster homes, and now is a freshman in college. And she shared about how, and you would imagine if you were in her shoes, like there's so much resentment towards God. God had done this to her, was her image, right, of God. Like God did these things to her. God took her parents out. God took grandma out. God put these negative experiences all of her life. And all the suffering was at the hands of God. And she just had grown resentful and angry, wanted nothing to do with God. And yet, God totally encountered her. And the thing that she realized is God had not caused these things to her, but actually God was with her in the midst of all the suffering that had gone with. That God was with her, was weeping with her, was grieving what was happening. And then through that, she's like, she sort of recognized, like, God is love, God is grace, God loves me, and I want to actually cling more to God than run away from God. And she turns her life to Jesus. And it's such a beautiful story as I heard that. And the thing that really stood out to me is there may be very little from a strategic end that would say, like, this is how a young person finds faith, or any person finds faith. Or I guess if I would want to sell God, I would want to make sure that all the experiences are positive. Like, look what a great life you've had. That's all God. And don't you want to live with him for the rest of your life? And like that would feel like a marketing campaign that might work. And instead, what I love about that is like only God can do that. Only God's Spirit can encounter someone in their depths, in their suffering, and help them see that he's with them, that he loves them, and he calls them closer to him, and that clinging to Jesus no matter the suffering we encounter, is better than doing it without him. So that really inspired me when she was sharing the story with me.
Wow, yeah. It reminds me of how healing happens many times. And I remember many years ago, I was part of a prayer ministry group, and they would try to have people tell their story, but then imagine Jesus in that.
Oh, yeah.
And at first it was hard for me to think about that, because it's like, how can you have Jesus be there in the traumatic spaces, right, with people? And I didn't get that as much. But then a couple years later, I read books on just from brain science people and therapists and stuff, and they talked about how healing happens when we do tell our story,
Yeah.
and it's met with compassion, and how going back in our memories and being so even telling our story to somebody else who receives it with compassion.
Oh, yeah.
It does something. And then when we think about it, it's like somebody's joined us in our healing. I'm not alone in this traumatic experience.
Yeah.
And so when I look at it, it actually starts to change in our brain. It changes how we view what happened and stuff. And then imagining Jesus or God with us through it as well is another healing way of being able to overcome some of these things. And so that's amazing. That God's amazing the way He transforms us in many areas. So you've been doing this campus ministry for many years, and kind of being part of a church and then campus ministry. And sometimes I remember many years ago we didn't play so well with each other. Campus ministry or other ministries were doing their own thing, and they kind of felt like the church doesn't know what they're doing, right?
Sure.
There's that way. And then the church was like campus ministry or other ministries think they know what they're doing, but they're not really. And so there was this tension for a couple seasons ago, but now it seems like we're working together better. And so in your experience, or even in what do you think are good ways where the church and campus ministries can work together?
Yeah, in what I do with campus ministry, I recognize we have people 4, maybe 5 years. That's it. And it is a very significant 4 or 5 years of their lives. I mean, we really believe the impact of those 4 years changes the trajectory of the next 40, right? Like, so we really invest in those 4, believing that the impact that will make and how people's lives will be changed will impact families, neighborhoods, cities, nations. So we work really hard at those 4 years, right, investing in discipling students. But really, one is they're out in the wild, at 22, 23, and we really want to keep discipling them, right? Discipleship continues over life. I mean, really, for the rest of your life, you should be, being discipled by Jesus. And so the church, in particular, I think has a really important role to really create spaces for young people to continue to grow in their faith, to minister in their giftings, to be discipled, to continue to find grace, community, all the things that discipleship, that following Jesus does. So I think that's one thing. Second, there's something like 4,000 college campuses around the country, and I don't know how many millions of students that is. In LA alone, there's 70 campuses and it's 1 million students. Wow. And we can't, not one entity can do it alone. And the church is really with churches in almost every neighborhood in Los Angeles, there's really an opportunity for the church to adopt campuses, love students, invest in leaders, send them back on campus, and really try to see the renewal of the city, renewal of neighborhoods, and the renewal of the campus all tied to that. So I think that the second thing is just to partner together. Like, this is a mission field. Let's work together to try to reach and disciple students. And the third thing is what I love to encourage church people is there's a lot of wisdom and experience in the church. People who have been walking with Jesus for 30, 40, 50 years. Having breakfast once a month just once a month for an hour with a 19-year-old makes a big impact on the 19-year-old. Maybe you don't think it does, but it actually does. So just the cost of coffee and a bagel, you can really have an impact on a young person's life. And so I would encourage, I think that's another way that partnership could happen is right now there's young people all around us. Finding someone that you can hang out with, love, buy breakfast for once a month, and just talk to them about your life, about your faith, about what's hard, about how you follow Jesus could be such a gift to them.
So good, yeah. Maybe in our generation, we wouldn't have wanted to do that with older people, but I've read that a lot of people in these young next generations do value that time with older people, and they want to expand on a relationship and hear from others and stuff, and so that's great. And actually, as we're recording today, we have the leadership from InterVarsity Cal State Northridge going to use our facility today, and they're going to sleep over until tomorrow to have some type of conference for their leadership training. And sometimes as churches we want to do things so that we can grow as a church community, right? But then we also have to have a heart to see the kingdom grow. And even if people eventually don't come to our church community, you're investing in the kingdom.
That's right.
And so
love that.
I think that's something that we need to, even if we don't see the fruit ourselves, that the fruit's going to be there in the kingdom of God.
That's right. I love that.
So you and your family now have been coming to Valley Vineyard for how long has it
about
been?
11 months.
11 months.
So it'll be a year in February.
Okay. Yeah. I knew it was around there.
Yeah.
And have just enjoyed seeing you and your lovely family come. And the question I've asked people as they've come in is, what are some of the what's some of the gifts you see in our church community? What are some of the things that have impacted you? And I ask that not because I want us to pat ourselves in the back of how good we are, but honestly, I think for me, I'm somebody who's always seeing the things that are wrong, the things that we need to do better, and sometimes maybe not enjoy the things that are going well. Yeah. And so I think it's good to hear from others, especially people that have been here for many years aren't able to experience something with fresh eyes. And so as you guys have transitioned here, what are some of the things that have impacted you or that you've enjoyed from our church community?
Yeah, thanks. We came here after having been part of a church for 15 years that sadly closed down. And that takes, when that happens, at least for me, it was a season of grieving of what was lost. Some of it was also celebrating some things that needed to end, and the transition helped with that. But I carried a lot of grief, and I was the pastor of that church, and so also, probably a level of guilt that I was carrying around, failure of having to bring closure to the church. So there's a lot of mixed emotions as we walked in. I think so. One, feeling just very welcomed and loved in coming here. I think I found myself hesitant in being in a church community for a couple months of because there's always that comparison, well, they're doing it right, we did it wrong, if we did it this way. And instead I was met with a lot of just grace and compassion and kindness. It begins with you as the pastor of setting that tone with me. He took me out to lunch early on and asked how I was doing. And that really mattered to me at the time, and continues to matter, I think, as a church community, to be kind and hospitable. You don't know what people are going through, right, in general. So we came in, and I don't know how many people would know our story at the time, but they felt very welcomed and embraced. So that's one that I've loved about being part of Valley Vineyard. Second, I have this, I've always had a crush on the Vineyard. In the 90s, the Vineyard probably discipled me in worship. In the 90s, I had all the Winds of Worship albums. Those are the conferences, right? Yeah. So the live ones, I had the studio recorded ones. and I really love the Vineyard's really emphasis. Just believe that God is still an active God, and so I love the prayer ministry that happens, the way that worship is led. It's just really we are open that the Spirit is here and the Spirit leads us and guides us, and and He's active. And I really have appreciated that, to be in a church community that actively believes that God is still at work in us and in our world. So I think that's the second thing that really makes it just a lot of joy in being part of the Vineyard. And then third, it's really great to be in a place that's been probably a theological home for me, more so than other places that I've worshiped over the last 20-some years. And I mean that in the ways, I think, that just thoughtfully trying to engage the world around us, trying to sort of reject the binaries that the world sets behind us. You have to either be this way or that way. And instead, well, what if we can choose compassion towards both? What if we can have dialogue around hard issues without being called this or that? And I just love that you've tried to nurture that sort of environment and community here at the Vineyard. And I think that's just been good. I'm like, yeah, I want to be in a place where I can have these thoughtful conversations and dialogue and build friendships and community without feeling like, it's dangerous to say certain things or believe certain things. So I appreciate that as well.
That's good to hear. Yeah. The Vineyard has just what's marked a lot of the Vineyard's theology is the kingdom theology and the already and not yet aspect of the kingdom. And we're a people that live in tension, right? Of God's kingdom being established, but not yet in its entirety. And so we're living in this time of tension. And so for me, that tension is not always easy. Like, I want to go to a place of peace where I feel good. I've solved it. I know that this is the way things work. And I remember a mentor of mine many years ago when I was feeling the tension between family and ministry and saying, I feel like I'm not doing good here or there. And I wanted advice of, like, how do I get out of this tension? Yeah. And his answer was like, if you get out of, you're always going to feel tension. And if you stop the tension, that means you've gone to one extreme.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why I like the Vineyard movement. It's that we're okay with that tension.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out a third way. The Vineyard was birthed out of evangelicalism is very conservative, is very like, we don't believe in the Spirit moving nowadays. And then we had the Pentecostals saying the Spirit moves all the time and He's going to heal everybody and this and that. And so the Vineyard came kind of like that third way, the middle. We call it the radical middle, where we're going to bring the best out of evangelicalism and the Word of God and theology, but then also the practice of the Spirit and the movement. And for some people on this side, we were too engaged with the Spirit. For this side, the Spirit didn't move enough. And so it's that third way, the non-binary type of thing that you mentioned. And I think politically it's happening nowadays where we have to figure out, okay, what does it mean to be a kingdom people in the midst of these binaries? And for many things, it's like, what's the tension we have to live with? What's a third way of not trying to be fit in a certain box? And so I do appreciate that of the Vineyard, and that's one of the reasons why I call it home as well. So thanks for that. So Eddy, what are ways that our church can pray for you and InterVarsity? Because we want to grow in having a heart for the next young generation. And so what are some ways we can pray for you, for InterVarsity as well? I always appreciate prayer. One, for me, for my family, I've got 2 teenagers and one who just exited the teen years. So essentially, I'll say I have 3 teens. And these are hard years. And we are navigating a lot. Our youngest has special needs as well. So that adds another layer of complexity to his maturity. So in many ways, I feel like this is the generation that I've been home with for 20-some years doing ministry, right?
invested in young people. And yet now I'm the parent of the mission field that I shepherd. And so one, I think just prayers for us as a family, prayer for me as a parent, for my wife Rhoda and I to parent well. These are just challenging times of knowing, what is the right move, and we messed up here. I wish we did it this way. And so just for our family parenting, our particularly our older two kids as they're navigating sort of adulthood and transitioning out of our middle son transitions out of high school in the next few months.
Before you go, I'm sorry to interrupt you. And can you just tell the story of, like, you've been going to this conference for years, and this was the first year your daughter. I just love for people. To hear about that. It blesses my heart so much when I hear that.
Yeah, InterVarsity holds a conference called Urbana every 3 years, and it's been going on for some 80 years or so. Where really it's calls college students to the nations, helps gather them for a few days in December every 3 years, and brings in speakers and Bible study and really inspire them to go and be a light to the nations, kind of thing.
And you've been going there for how many?
This is my 12th. I think it was my 12th time.
Wow. Okay.
Since '96, I've been going to this conference, and yeah. Just last month, our oldest, Layla, decided that she wants to be at that conference. She's a junior in college. And so she came with her community of friends from school and was able to go to the conference together. So I worked the conference and she was an attendee. So it was really fun to be there together. And honestly, I mean, we were there, 4 or 5 days, and I think I saw her twice. So we didn't really actually get a lot of FaceTime while we were there, which is great. I think she's doing her own seminars or having her own experience.
But what a joy to be able to do that. Maybe not together, but to know that what you've been investing in for many years is your daughter's entering into as well. So we could pray for your family. What else?
Family, yeah. My specific role in the InterVarsity is I oversee the ministry in Central California, the Valley, Central Coast, and Las Vegas. Took on the job about 9 months ago, last May, and it's been wonderful. I drive a lot, so I put in a lot of miles on my car, and getting on all the cities and campuses that are part of my new region. A couple of things. I mean, we continue to long for revival on our college campuses. So obviously, please join me in praying for students in this generation. Second, the region that I've inherited, that I've come in, has gone through various transitions over the last several years. And just sort of as I walked in, I sort of recognized there's some new movements that need to happen to inspire ministry on campus, to build better structures of leadership. I don't have enough directors to actually oversee our ministry. So that's one of the things I'm working on, is raising up laborers for the harvest. So that's the second thing to pray for is Jesus says, there will be a harvest, and pray for the laborers. So that's what I'm doing. I'm praying for laborers. Join me in praying for more laborers, more people that we would raise up to work to minister on these college campuses. We have campuses like Ventura College right now, where a variety of churches have come to us and said, we want to support you, start something of InterVarsity at Ventura College. And we're like, we want to do that too. We're trying to figure out how to have the right people and how to hire people in order to do that. So prayers for the laborers of that. That's probably the second thing to pray for. And then third, there's a lot of challenges on college campuses and there's a lot of cult activity, for example, on a lot of these campuses. There is political unrest that you read about on these different college campuses. So I think just general, the campus itself is a mission field, but it could be a hostile place for students. So really praying for boldness for students to be fervent, to be bold, to be persistent in reaching their friends, faculty, staff on the campus. So third, just pray for for boldness to keep declaring the gospel.
It's good. It's good. We hope people will join you in praying
Yeah,
for that. And I didn't ask for permission for this, but Eddy, part of working for InterVarsity is not like you have a set salary where the organization pays. Part of your job or part of the things you have to do is also fundraise.
Yes.
And so what are some ways or how can people contact you? How can people give towards your ministry?
Yeah,
as well?
I'd love to sit down with anybody and share about what we're trying to do and invite them to give towards our ministry. You're right. We raise 100% of our support. So, so I oversee the 20 staff who are raising all of their support. So it's like a couple $1 million that I'm overseeing every year, which is daunting, but also does two things. One, our dependence grows on God, as God is the one who provides. But second, it forces us in a good way to partner with the church, partner with people who are praying, who are investing. And so, I mean, on a Sunday, you can catch me or reach out to me. I don't know if you share my information on the.
I'll put it this time. Yeah.
So I'd love to sit with people. I mean, and also just add people. I send out monthly prayer newsletters, and so.
Or maybe just say your email address so that people can get maybe the newsletter as well.
Sure. Yeah, you can call my name is not easy to remember, so it's Eddy with a Y, EDDY.Ekmekji, EKMEKJI @intervarsity.org. I don't know if that'll get through, but
Okay. We'll put it down.
We'll put it down, somewhere. So praying with me could be great. I mean, I know when I did the fall conference in October, the Vineyard here brought 7 to 8 of.
I think 7, 8, or 8.
7, 8 or people. 2 or 3 cars came to pray with students, and I love that. It was such a joy to see the church partnering with us, and so third, you can even serve. There's ways to serve. So just even hosting students here this weekend, it's actually a very practical gift to us. So praying for us, giving towards the ministry, and serving alongside us are great ways to support us.
Sylvia still shares with people what a blessing. Sylvia, our prayer ministry coordinator, she just keeps sharing about what a wonderful time. It was a highlight of her year.
I love it.
Going to InterVarsity and seeing so many kids gathered, and then being open to prayer.
Yeah.
And seeing
we're going to do more of that. We'll do more of that.
Yeah, definitely. So Eddy, thanks for being with us. Like you said, you've had a crush with the Vineyard. I've had a crush with InterVarsity as well.
So we're dating now.
It's just I believe when I've met, for many years I used to help at UCLA with InterVarsity, and as I was pastoring on the West Side as well, and when I was in Los Angeles, I would partner with people from East Los Angeles and other things. Actually, part of our story is that we had many mutual friends that were InterVarsity or Vineyard and the connections, and we didn't really know each other. Right. We connected through Facebook because of other friends that we've had. And so it's just been great to see the mixture with InterVarsity and Vineyard and theological things, and I believe InterVarsity, because of being there with young students, has been just a leader in just looking thinking about racial issues and justice and just hope for a better future and evangelism. So I've always wanted to learn from InterVarsity in those things. Thanks. So, and Eddy, I really appreciate you and all you do. And I'm so glad you're a part of the Valley Vineyard family as well. And so thank you for being with us today. And everyone else, thanks for joining us, and hope you have a blessed rest of your week. God bless you.